Hello, what's up, good people? Good to see you once again. Now, guess what? Today we are talking about debt, and I'm gonna take you through on how to get yourself out of what we call unhealthy debt and also the shame that is associated with any debt. Have you ever in any way got yourself into a situation whereby you running out of what we call, or you having what we call the cash crunch, and you want to get some cash so that at least you may be able to fund your activities or normal activities, like you have to pay your rent, you have to eat, you have to, just make sure that the wheel of life is actually rolling out there. This is an issue that actually a lot of people get to tell me, hey, you know what, Joseph, I would like you to make a video for us and tell us exactly how can we get ourselves out of the unhealthy debts, because it's actually a very big shame associated with it. And the problem is that we do not have any idea on how or what we can be able to do exactly that. Now, guess what? I understand you, and today is the day that I'm gonna make that exact video and take you through step by step and explain to you exactly. If you get yourself into unhealthy debt, like you have like multiple guys who are asking you, you got your Shylock there, you got your bank, you got your circles, you got like multiple areas, or some of the, what we call the apps in your phone that you've already borrowed a couple of them, and you do not even know how you get yourself out of it. Now, today is the day I'm gonna take you step by step. But because I don't want you to miss any of my good future video, this is what I want you to do. It is free, it is fast, it doesn't cost you anything. And the importance of that is that you get to be notified whenever I upload a new good video. Just down below there on your right, there is a button written subscribe. It is in black. If you hit that magical button, then on the left, there is a like button like this. Hit those two magical buttons, and guess what? You'll be notified whenever I upload a good new video. You just relax, I do the deeds. All right, so let's get into the business. Now, say you got yourself into a situation whereby the salary that you get, it's not, sometimes it's not enough because you have a lot of nitty-gritties that you have to run, and then you're forced to a point whereby you have to borrow for you to be able to fund what we call the consumables. And I want to make you understand what are consumables. Consumables are things that you buy that does not generate any income for you. If you borrow and pay your rent, that does not generate anything. If you borrow and pay your school fees, if you borrow and pay food, or rather buy food, if you borrow and buy clothes, if you borrow and sustain your life, if you borrow and, you get my point, those are called the consumables. If you borrow and invest, or if you borrow and start a business, that's a different perspective with the debt. And I'm not talking about that kind of a debt, all right? Unless the business is facing some challenges to a point whereby it's not even able to pay the debt that is outstanding out there. I'm talking about this kind of a debt that you already borrowed and you cannot even account exactly what happened. This is what I would advise you to do. Now, sit down with a pen and paper. Numbers don't lie. This is what I want you to do. Take a pen and paper and write down all the debts that you have from different areas that you have. Say you have a debt from a branch, or let's say you have a debt from a circle, you have a debt from a bank, you have a debt from a Shylock, or any kind of a debt. Just write them down. And the next step, now classify that debt into a bigger one to a smaller one. All right. Now, after identifying that, the further or the third identification of that specific debt is identifying that debt, which one is actually pushing you out there that you have to repay it as fast as yesterday. Now, after identifying all those debts in terms of their classification, then start attacking those debts from the smallest. This is what happens when you start paying your debt. Have you ever had a debt, maybe let's say from a shop, and then you show up and pay your debt? There is something like sort of a satisfaction that comes inside of you or comes out of you, and usually feel good and motivated. This is what happens when you start paying or attacking debts when it comes to the small one. This is what you do. First of all, if you get yourself to a point whereby you realize like you have a debt of 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, or 50,000, depends with your capacity, and then you realize this is not quite a big debt, then it's good to get yourself out of those shameful kind of things. That is settling that small debt, and then that gives you motivation to actually go ahead and actually attacking the other debts. But here are the things that you need to understand very well so that you'll be able to pay all these debts. Just think about your normal life on the way, or the things that you usually do each and every day. Maybe in 1 week, or maybe let's say after several days, usually go to that club and grab yourself some, what we call some several beers or something. At this particular point is actually realizing that you've already get yourself into a ditch, and the point is to actually figure out how you get yourself out of it. And there's something that you need to sacrifice for yourself. Number one, you realize maybe there's some 1 or 2 times in a week you usually grab that expensive coffee from that coffee joint that you usually go. I think there's a time you can sacrifice that 1 cup and maybe get that 1 cup in a week, or perhaps you can just do away with it, or maybe perhaps usually go for a vacation somewhere here and there. I think this is the high time that usually set aside those vacations. Vacations can actually wait, and get yourself out of this burden of this kind of a debt. And maybe let's say sometimes usually grab those expensive things here and there. is the time you sacrifice about all those things. Maybe there's somewhere you usually hang around with your friends or your buddies in one way or the other. It's the time to sacrifice about that thing so that you can generate that excess income or that surplus towards repaying your debt. The mistake that I usually find people doing is that whenever you realize you have debt and a lot of people actually calling you, a lot of your phones are actually ringing here and there because they're actually requesting or actually asking for their money back. You get yourself into drinking so that you drink yourself out, you don't face the reality. But when you sober up, and now the reality still hits and the monster is still available. What you're supposed to do is that appreciate and accept the fact that you're already in a ditch. And the only point that you're supposed to do is to focus on exactly how do you get out of it. And how exactly you get out of it, it's actually arranging those debts from the biggest to the smallest one. And if among all those debtors that you have, or those guys who lend you that money, that there's a way you can be able to visit them and talk to them. First of all, I always advise people, it's actually a real thing that you can go and talk to these people. I remember there was a certain lady who approached me and told me that she has a lot of debts and those guys are actually following him up and down. Some of them were Shylock, some of them were Sacco, some of them were banks. And they were following her all over the place to a point whereby she had to go or to sneak somewhere and try sort of quote unquote hide. And I told her, you know what, these guys understand and they have been dealing with business people. What you're supposed to do, or the mistake that you're doing, is to hide from them and piling lies after lies after lies. What you're supposed to do is that go visit these places, take yourself there without actually them calling you. Talk to them and tell them the situation that you are right now. Perhaps let's say you're supposed to pay like 20,000 at the end of the month. You can negotiate yourself down and tell them, hey, you know what guys, I cannot promise you to give you 20,000 at the end of the month as I promised you guys or as we agreed. But guess what? I don't even mind if you guys, you can just understand me and maybe pay you like 5,000 at the end of the month or 6,000 at the end of the month that I'm sure that I'll be able to afford and get for you. Yes, I understand the period of the repayment of the loan might be a longer, but even if that means that attracting a little bit of more interest, but at least we move along together whereby I'm not overstretching and again you're getting your money, that should be the case. Talk yourself out so that at least you can find, or you can come to a point whereby you can agree and move to the same or with the same pace. All right, so the other thing I said is that just handle those small, some of these debts that usually follow us are quite small. Some of them are 2,000, some of them are a couple of hundred, some of them are like 10, 15 or something. So attack these debts from the way beginning out there. Let's say like if you can just sacrifice like 2 vacations or 2 coffee dates, like 3 or 4 of them in a week, or maybe let's say in a 2 weeks or a fortnight, you can be able to clear all these debts so that you get yourself out of this shameful thing. And again, before you even get yourself into these debts, this is what you're supposed to understand. Whenever you realize that the money that you're getting at the end of the month, say like you're earning 40,000, and then you realize this money is not enough for you to actually sustain all the lifestyle that you have. Okay, first of all, you're supposed to sit down and ask yourself, where are you, or where did the rain start beating you, or where have you actually lived above your means? Because if you live a 45,000 life and you're earning 40,000, then it means you have to borrow the 5,000 to you to sustain the life. And actually that is getting yourself into more problems because you're not saving yourself, you're not accumulating money for the purpose of investing to grow yourself to the next level. So at that particular point, you're supposed to ask yourself, at this juncture, I'm actually getting myself way above the means. What you're supposed to understand is this: there's some of the things that you can shade them and actually get out of them. I was having a certain simple example with a certain individual who called me and they told me like they have a fridge, they have a Wi-Fi, they have a lot of things that are actually consuming a lot of electricity, that means money, and other things that are actually out there that are liabilities that they are consuming a lot of money, and they were not even realizing that. When you sit down with a pen and paper and look around from where you live, you can be able to realize either you're paying over excess in terms of your rent, either you're paying in excess in terms of your Wi-Fi, and compared to that what Wi-Fi is bringing you, it does not add up in any way or the other. Or maybe if you could figure out the way you eat, or the basically like the lifestyle and how, where you usually drink your coffee and where you buy your things and something, actually that consumes more money for you. So what you're supposed to do is that figure it out where you buy all those commodities and how you actually handle yourself, so that from that particular point you can be able to sacrifice, or rather you can be able to save some few coins. And I always tell people, the best thing that you can do in life is to always live below your means. Let's say one thing: if you're making 40,000, you're living a 40,000 life, it is okay, it is comfortable, it's comfortable, and actually you live a good life and everybody will see as if you're okay and everything is good. But the point is this: what if something happens in life? And I always tell people the most predictable thing about life is unpredictability. You can get yourself sick and you cannot be able to go to that job. That means the salary does not come in. And if you live from paycheck to paycheck, then counter yourself to getting into more problems because you're gonna borrow out there and you're gonna get yourself in entanglement of this shameful debt. So this is the point. If I can just echo exactly what I've just said, is this: consider or write down the debts that you have, those multiple of debts that you have. And then at that particular point, if you're totally in a problem, if you're totally in a situation whereby you cannot be able to settle all these debts, I usually advise that you can visit these premises, and if you have an asset that you have something that can function as a collateral, always consider that. And if you do not, take yourself to these places and talk to these people, negotiate down, because these are people who can actually understand. But the problem is that you're making is actually lying to them to a point whereby even if you are telling them the truth, they cannot differentiate when you are lying or where you are lying now or when or you are lying later. So it's always good to go to these premises, talk to them and negotiate down and tell them, hey, you know what, guys, I screwed up, and where I am right now, I'm caught on a ditch, and guess what, I cannot promise you 20,000, but I can promise you 6,000, and then from there you can be able to progress. But these small debts, attack them as just attack them from the word go. Sacrifice some few days. And this particular point, accept one thing. Yeah, I know you may argue from the point of life is for the living, life is short, and you have to make yourself happy, blah, 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 blah. At the same time, consider that you have the debts with you. Sacrifice some of the things. Consider you sacrifice some of the things, some of the vacations, some of the coffee dates, some of those expensive places and what have you, those expensive things and in your house and what have you. And also some of the things that are inside your house and you find them, some of them are liabilities, you can just liquidate them, cover up those debts, and then from there never get yourself to that particular point. There was a time I remember I had a client who told me, hey, you know what, Joseph, I lost my job and I had some debts outstanding, but guess what, I had started a business way back, but it never picked up and it failed. I got myself some good freezers here, I got some fridges, I got a very nice TV, I got a couch and whatever. You know what he told me? Is it an idea, if it's a good idea, that I can actually sell all these furnitures and get myself out of debt and pick myself from there and progress? I asked him, do you have a family? He said he doesn't have a family. I told him, guess what, all those things needs money to maintain. All right, guess what, just accept you're already on a ditch and consider getting yourself out rather than actually digging more. He actually went out there and liquidated most of his things, and he was left with the basics, and then he started from there. And recently we were having a conversation and he told me everything now is picking up well and everything is okay because he doesn't have anybody who is actually asking him money in terms of a debt recollection or something of sort. That's how we do it. That may sound a bit extreme and harsh, but at times you can find yourself in such a situation. You do not have a shamba that you can sell, you do not have a car that you can give a logbook, you do not have an asset that is out there, but it's always that thing that you can actually give it out there to function as a collateral as you grow yourself to the next level. Instead of waiting them to come and actually devalue your properties, goes and sell them out there so that they can recoup their money. Those people called you auctioneers or something. They're actually very merciless. But before it reaches to that particular point, because at the end of the day, to reach there. So it's always good to grab these things that you know, obviously they were gonna come and get them. You sell those things and then you can repay them, and then you can start from scratch and then progress and grow to the next level. But why let all that time reach to that particular point? Get yourself right now. Maybe you are not in that situation, but you can be able to do, or you can do things that can get yourself into that situation. So be very careful and consider yourself progressing and growing to the next level. Pole pole, don't overtax yourself, or rather don't take debt that are not healthy, debt that are not generating anything, because if you do, then that and only that, how you entangle your life and you complicate your life and get yourself into more problems. All right, if you're out there and you're a bit confused, and by the way, it's your first time you're watching my videos, my name is Joseph. Talk about money, anything related to that. If you're out there, I have a very nice booklet that I've explained exactly how are you supposed to manage your money. You can grab a copy. It's only $250. Okay, it's called Money Management Skill or Personal Strategies on how you're supposed to plan your money and budgeting yourself. You can grab that copy. It can be very helpful to you. All right, so you can get my number from the description of this specific video. Text me, or you can get any other booklets about business ideas, investments, business plans, shares, and what have you. I have those copies for you, ready for you. Text me or call me, then we can have the conversation. So for now, it's a goodbye. And by the way, don't forget to make sure that you subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, and if you're in a position to share it out, then that would be the most amazing thing. And as well, comment down below, tell me what you think, and see you in the next level, or rather in the next